Hey, I'm Daniel Berger, and this is Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. Welcome to the podcast where Metro New York real estate meets great stories and a douse of humor. Forget the dry sales talk. Here we dive into the fun and unexpected moments of real estate. Join me each week as we explore Westchester, Long Island, the Bronx, and more. You'll hear about the people, the places, and the crazy situations that make this industry so interesting. Thanks to our sponsor, Remax Prestige Properties, we're ready to share the lighter side of real estate. Whether you're a pro, a buyer, or just curious, we've got something for everyone. Ready for today's adventure? Let's get into it. Welcome to another edition of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger. Today, all the way from I think Oahu, Hawaii, we have Celester Thomas, who this is what I know about Celester. He's no joke. He's no play. He's the real deal. He's got candor and caring. He's the broker owner of Soldier to Soldier. He's also an army vet. Want to thank him for that, and I also want to thank him for being on the show this week. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I think you over-exaggerated my background there, but that's okay.
Well, you are in Hawaii, though. Did I
Yes, I
exaggerate
am.
that?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm on Oahu, but I do cover all islands.
excellent. So Hawaii is a magical place. I've been there twice and want to go back. It's amazing.
Oh, it is. It is. People always ask me what the weather's like, and I'm like sunny and hot every day.
What so a little bit about your business. Is it more people more people that are full-time there, or do you do some that also have vacation homes there?
I am a mixture of everything. Of course, I can't do timeshares, but my company literally handles everything from commercial real estate to commercial property management, from residential real estate to residential property management. And we're located on all the islands, from Oahu to Maui to the Big Island to Kauai. So we do business on all the islands. So I'm quite frequently traveling, at least once or twice a week, going to the other islands.
So what percent of your clients, I think, are full-time versus from a residential standpoint, what percent are full-time and what percent have second homes there
I would probably say 80% are full time. I get
or
a
full-time?
few, yeah, yeah. I get probably about 20% people that are a lot from California, that buy properties here and really come here. I got a few clients from Japan and China that may come once a year. I have a client now managing a property and it's been vacant a whole year, but she stays in China.
Right. So you're quite busy. I noticed that you're doing somewhere, 30 plus sales in the last 12 months. Um, you have a huge range of sales from like 165,000 to $3 million with an average price close to 800,000. So those are decent numbers.
Yeah, that sounds about right. A lot of
The
my high end stuff comes off Maui.
Right, comes off Maui. And then I guess some of the people that aren't, the 20% of the people that aren't full time probably need your help in getting short-term tenants or Airbnb or things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. That's where that low end spectrum comes from, places like, because I'm not sure if you guys have a lot of leaseholds on the mainland, because you guys are mainlanders on the mainland. There's quite a few leaseholds. So if you see properties, I get calls from the mainland, say, hey, I want to look at this house. It's only $100,000. And I say, oh, it's probably a leasehold. And they're like, what do you mean
Exactly.
leasehold? I said, it's probably
I
100 some $1,000 and the maintenance fee is like 3,000 a month.
Right, because there's only like 5 years left before something else is going to happen to it. So I actually have one of my agents recently bought two places in Hawaii for relatives, and those were generally like leaseholds where you don't get a long-term spot on so what happens in those cases where there's only like 5 years left? Do they ever get renewed, or do you actually what happens to those houses when that's over?
I haven't seen a case yet where they weren't renewed or the lease didn't become available to purchase. I actually own three properties myself that are leaseholds in the same building.
So what happens when the time period expires? If you get it renewed, then you still own the property, I guess.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
By the book, it says that you have to move out and
Right.
the property goes back to the landlord, but I haven't seen it happen yet.
Interesting. So soldier to soldier is a great concept where, you obviously are an army vet and you're, clearly, I mean, obviously you're going to be doing all that you can for all people, but certainly, people that are in the military are going to probably find a liking to somebody who's been in the same circumstances as them and trying to help out. What percent of your clients are either current or past military?
I would probably about 75%. Because I
75.
still get phone calls saying, oh, do you only help military? One, because as you indicated, the name itself kind of screams, military only.
Right. But again, you'll do everyone, and of course, referrals are probably a great way for you to grow your business as well.
Yep, absolutely. A lot of my business still comes from TV commercials and radio commercials.
Talk to me a little bit about your experience and background, even either in real estate and even before real estate. What got you to this point?
Well, I'm a retired military vet. I started my career off in lovely Lawton, Oklahoma. As you kind of mentioned earlier, I'm from South Carolina. So I joined the Army in South Carolina, went to school at USC in South Carolina. And I got commissioned, took a commission, stayed in the Army, and probably about 10 years into my military career, I started buying VA foreclosures while I was still in the military. At that point, I was called my realtor to say, hey, I want to bid on 10 of these VA foreclosures. And this is back, I want to say back in 2000, maybe 1999, where all you had to do was put down $1,000 and you could bid on these properties. And I would literally go by, grab the keys from my realtor and go look at all these foreclosed properties. And then I'll just go bid on them. And I was picking up 4 or 5 properties every year just by doing that. So I ended up, before I got out of the military, I think I ended up having over 100 properties from VA foreclosures in Oklahoma. And then when it was about that time to retire from the military, I'm like, man, what am I going to do? I don't want to retire. I'm too young to retire. So I'm doing real estate anyway. I was doing it, not as a realtor, but more as an investor. So I decided to just go ahead and get my license, kind of go from there.
I would think that sharpening your teeth as an investor probably makes you so much of a better realtor now because especially for the people that are investors, you've been there, you've done that, a lot of the pitfalls and try to help people do it the proper way.
Yeah, yeah. I get a lot of calls from investors. I'm probably working with 10 investors now that consistently flip properties, and they always call me in. And probably out of that 10 investors, 4 of them have a license in Hawaii, but they still use me to sell their property because they know I understand that they understand I have investment properties, so they can talk to me in a way that, and not saying all realtors, but some realtors don't kind of they don't get out of the habit of this is the only way to do things. Versus investors try to do things a little different, with a little twist on things.
Sure. Talk to me a little bit about, as real estate agents, it's always tough with our work-life balance because, I mean, I was hounding you today at 4 in the morning your time because I'm like, oh, can we, set up reschedule the time? I wanted to go a little bit earlier, and that's just one example. But and thank you for taking my call at 4 in the morning. I wanted to give you props for that. Um, talk to me about how, what is your life like and how do you do work-life balance?
Initially, there was no such animal as work-life balance because I was the machine. It was just me. I was the only person in the company, and that was my original plan, was to get my broker's license and just be that broker owner by myself. And then I started getting agents. Hey, I want to come over. I want to come over. And the next thing you know, I look around. I have 65 agents. So it's like, okay, how do I take these 65 agents and maximize? Which what I mean by maximize is, how do I get my time back now? So a lot of my agents, especially my new agents, I train them and they're doing stuff that a TM will be doing. They're doing stuff like going to showings. they're doing the buyer's agent stuff, and then I will just take a portion of that commission. So a lot of my time is bought back by especially new agents on training them because I let them do all the labor and not me.
Well, you're still doing labor. You're just not opening up a door. You're doing
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
know, um, and being, I'm a broker too. So I probably produce 55, 60% of the company sales, but I also like selling. And I actually did the same like you did. I basically built a franchise so that I didn't have to listen to others, right? I want to do what's legal and what's right. I don't want to have to do something because that's the way they've always done it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I
So,
hate that. I hate that word. That's the way it was always done. So you should do it that way.
which is funny because you being an army guy, right? Like that's standard operating procedures. That's what our military does. Is like you have a playbook of exactly what you have to do. Um, and now you've basically gone the other way. You're like, no, no, no. This is what Celester wants to do because this is the right thing for you, for your clients, and for your other agents.
I think that was what made me go rogue then because I was so brought up in the army where the playbook you had to follow it regardless. And now I'm like, I'm not following the playbook anymore. I want to do what I want to do and what's beneficial to my clients.
That is so similar to what I've done. This real estate, I've been doing real estate for about 8 years. Um, I've come from a background in sales and marketing and getting different, more in the office refreshment and beverage. But it's like at some point you're like, I want to be able to do what I want to do because it's the right thing and be a small business owner and build that way. So in that sense, I think we're really, really similar. So um, so you talk about work-life balance, but you have 60 people that work for your business right now.
Yes, I do.
So that must take a lot of time. That takes more than 60 clients, the 60, because you must be getting a lot of phone calls.
Yesterday was very, very hectic from phone calls to agents call. So I mean, as you already know, being your own brokerage is what I try to focus on is fixing or improving one thing every year. And by that improvement, it buys me more of my time. So my next step is to how do I empower my brokers in charge so people don't even want to call me because not because they don't think I know or not don't want to talk to them, because they're empowered to call a broker and they can solve those problems at the lowest level versus right now everybody's calling me, you know.
What I like to do with my team is I constantly say this, even my family jokes. When people are like, oh, you have employees, I'm like, no, no, no. I have zero employees. Everyone's an independent contractor. And I feel that my job as a broker is to help my agents build their own business, right? So it's more mentoring, guiding.
Yeah.
I don't tell, it's I don't tell them what their commission should be. What
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
they run their business because ultimately that's part of that's where I like being the broker is that I'm helping them build their own business. And so I don't tell someone that they're underperforming, overperforming because it's ultimately the work that they put in is what they're going to
Yeah.
get out of it, right? So if I have 10 right now I have like 10 listings and I'm always offering my agents to do open houses, but I'm not going to force them to do an open house. I'm going to say it's available. And if they want to run the open house to try to get their own, buyers, then it's up to them to do that. So it's really more of a coach and a mentor. And you probably seem like you're probably doing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you hit it on the head when you talked about the open house stuff. I probably get 20% of those agents that are consistently wants to do open house. And I think it's a prime time to be doing open house because of the whole NAR changes and stuff like that. I literally blew up page two. I normally have it behind me. Page two of the buyer's agent agreement and the compensation part is the huge stand-up board that I take to the open houses. So when every buyer walks in, I literally go through it with them.
What's
And
actually interesting.
99% of the buyers don't even know what they signed, which
No,
is
no,
amazing.
most people don't read what they sign. What's interesting is um, well, my view on what happened with NAR and the MLSs is basically they didn't care about buyers, sellers, or agents. All they care about is not getting sued. They're trying to stop being sued. So they took a strategy that is preventing them from getting sued, but it's not really helping us or buyers
No,
because
absolutely.
it's adding confusion, and it's like cloak and daggers now of not knowing what commissions may or may not be. But ultimately, for you and me, people that know what we're talking about and have a book of business of hundreds of sales, our buyers are going to they're going to look to you and say, "Oh, Celester knows what he's doing. I want to work with him." Um, it is harder for newer agents, right? Or agents that are doing 2 or 3 deals a year. And you could even argue an agent that's really doing 2 or 3 deals a year is not really an agent.
Right.
They're a hobbyist, right? Like they're dabbling in it, but they're not really a professional. So actually, all of this is probably better for us because we're going to get more business because of the things that you talked about of explaining what the process is. There's really not that much of a change. It's just more
No, it's not. It's not.
explaining.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
not.
The other issue is my wife's an attorney, so she and I work together on formulating that 7-page buyer's agreement, and I have it down to a 1-page document. And it's a 1-page document that there's only like 4 different things that NAR is requiring us to put
Yep.
in. So we have those 4 things. And what's really good is that if I ever wanted to, many times if someone's not sure about signing it, I'll say, "This is my document. Look at the document that our MLS or NAR want you to sign. There's a 7-page document that a lawyer would need to read it to understand it. Mine is very simple." And so I drive people to be like, and I also do a non-exclusive because I'm not going to tie anyone up to anything. And
Uh,
so it's I don't need to tie people up because they're going to want to work with me just as I know that your people would want to work with you because you're not tying military people up into a long-term deal that's going to screw them. And I'm similar. So um so
I think it's the psychology behind it because I always when I go to listing appointments and that question comes up where, hey, what if I want to cancel? What are my procedures? And my saying to them always is, hey, you can sign this listing agreement today, and when I get up and turn around and walk out the door, you can change your mind, you can ball it up and hit me in the back of the head with it, and I'll cancel it for you.
yep.
But people really will want to cancel anyway, even if you tell them you can cancel it right now. People really cancel, really cancel. So
So it's always good to let people know that they have the out because
yeah,
being a broker, you're not going to be litigious, right? So I'm not going to sue you to do that. I'm not going to hold your listing.
exactly.
The, the most I ever would do is I would tell someone that if they cancel my listing, I would ask them to pay for the photos and the
Photos, yep,
videos. But
yep.
I would give them the picture so that they can use it with the next one. I've I've never had a problem with that. People totally understand that. I do have a document that lets people cancel for any or no reason. Any or no reason. I generally don't use the document. I generally orally tell people that. Um, but like you said, most people are not going to cancel. Most people they want to sell their house, but we all have cases where people thought that they needed to sell, something happened, maybe someone died, maybe they lost a
Yeah,
job, they
yeah.
didn't get a transfer, and you just let it go because ultimately we're not about being a good broker and a good agent. We're not about the one-time transaction. We're about the long-term commitment of value added and building customer relationships.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better.
So I mean, I certainly can tell from your persona that people, and just reading some things about you, but you are the real deal. Um, and ultimately, it's about you were proud to be in the army. You're proud to be the broker of soldier to soldier, and those relationships and what people say about you is so much more important than the money that you're going to get from any transaction out
Absolutely,
there. And
absolutely.
So right, so it's kind of like wearing the our military uniform. You're proud, right? And so it's the same thing that you're a proud person that is a professional trying to run a business. And so that's all we really need to let our clients know, right? That's what we're about. And then ultimately you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but ultimately you're going to feel you can sleep every night when your head hits the pillow.
knowing that you did the right thing by people, you know.
Exactly. So, um, I saw something that do you do like a flat fee for listings? I saw something that you do something that's a little different than what other people do. Was that
I
correct?
am and you remember you mentioned the point of you don't tell your agents what to charge in commissions. I have 60 agents. We're all over the place. I have some agents 6% plus GET, which is the taxes. No, that's what they do. 5%, 4%, 1% flat fee. So we're all over the place. So there's no model of everyone must do this because I do that. Some clients I give a flat fee to, some clients I don't. It's always situational on what I charge a person.
And I think that was the big miss with the lawsuit. The lawsuit happened in Kansas City. I think it was Missouri. I don't know if it was Kansas City,
Yeah,
Kansas,
here's
or
a
Kansas
Missouri.
City, Missouri. But that I think it was horrible lawyering that everyone's doing a settlement. Basically, like so, Remax paid like a $55 million settlement. They did not. Remax has never once told me what commission I should charge ever. Neither has NAR. But they took the path of least resistance and is weak, right? Because the path of least resistance was settling so that the lawsuit stopped. That doesn't mean that it's correct, you know. And you can even argue, like from a military standpoint. I mean, I guess sometimes you lose the battle to win the war, maybe, but it certainly doesn't feel good that Remax paid $55 million for something that they never even did wrong. But I wish that you were sued or I was sued, and they would open up our book of business, and a proper lawyer would look and say,
Wait
"Well,
a minute. How is
clearly
this fixed when it's all over the
there's no
place?
fix." Exactly, and so that's why it's kind of a shock. But again, when life gives you lemons, you have to make lemonade, right? And so um, we could sit here complaining about 400 and something $1 million settlement from NAR and Remax and all these other, all those other things, or we could basically put our boots on, right, and say we got to go to work today. And what are we going to do to successfully, you know, every day, right? There's an election coming up. Things could happen. Things might not happen. Do you want to be deer in the headlights, or do you want to just say today is, today is today, and let me work today, and I'll worry about tomorrow tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. When this whole thing happened, I never even blinked the eye. I've told my people, what are you worried about? There's nothing to worry about. Do what we're always doing. Because like you said, if they don't check my books, they'll scratch their head like, what are we in here for again? Because the price is all
Exactly.
over the place. You can even find this why I lost money because of situations where the clients just didn't have any money and I
Yep.
took a hit on, So what about those cases? But that's beyond my pay grade. But as they say, but I don't know what books they check to come to that conclusion. And I think you're spot on when you say they took the path of least resistance.
Yeah, which again I think is a weak strategy. I like what you were talking about, that you're all over the book. I'm all over the book too, and it's all situational. I just had somebody who was working at a $4 million listing in my town. It's in my town, and somebody from a large brokerage basically said that they couldn't do it for less than X%, right? They're like, maybe it's a mandate from their office, whatever. And I was able to do it for half of that, right? Because here's my motto: you don't take percent to the bank, you take dollars to the bank, right? And so a $40,000 commission is a lot of money. Do I really need to be making $80,000, right? Like, that's, to me, that seems like a little bit of a pig, because I don't think a $4 million listing doesn't necessarily mean that it's harder than a $300,000 listing. Actually, the $300,000 listing might be harder.
Most of the time they are.
E- Exactly. So that's the greatest thing about right being our broker and having the autonomy. So it's clearly the people that work for me and the people that work for you don't need to be the broker because they have a leader that is basically supporting them and allowing them to be the business people that they can be. And that's why this is such a great business and why, every single day that things come up, right? The only thing that's constant is change, right? And
Yep.
so I'm not really worried about it. Tell me what the rule is, and then I'm going to come up with a strategy to work with that. It's the same thing during the pandemic, right? Some people actually shut down, they stopped work. I continued to work the whole time, following the rules that were set to be safe and healthy that were legal.
Absolutely. Same thing. I didn't see a slowdown at all when the pandemic hit. I just saw less traffic was better for me. I can get to my appointments quicker and back home.
Exactly. So, what else do you see, in the in the near future of what do you see the real estate specific to Hawaii, your island, or just nationally?
I mean, home prices here are fairly high. I mean, our average condo price is around 800 some $1,000 now. I mean, you can't find anything that cheap. I'm getting a lot of assumptions that are happening now. So people are turning to the assumption route, which are taking banks months and months to close now. And now there's a new entity that popped up. I'm not sure if it's in New York. You have these companies that are charging a $3,000 fee to be the middleman between the buyer and the seller and guaranteeing that they can get the assumption passed in a quicker manner versus say a 6, 7 month assumption. They're saying they can do it in 90 days or less. Are you guys seeing it in New York at all?
You're talking about an assumable mortgage where you have a low interest rate and then you're trying to flip it into the next deal.
Yeah, yeah. So you're getting a lot of buyers here that are buying homes through assumption because the rates were low back then.
Right. It's not so easy to do, and I clearly would challenge people that say that they can do it for 3,000 and they can guarantee it because it really depends. So it is something that is done sometimes, but it's not a big thing. Clearly I know that um mortgages, interest rates go up and down. And so it had been in the eights. Now I'm seeing things that are in the high fives, maybe in the sixes. Um, but again, it goes up and down. So it's probably less of a thing. Are you talking? I think VA loans are one that are much easier to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
assumptions. So
yeah.
it's much. I don't think you can do it for VA FHA. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about
Correct. No,
conventional. It
it's
depends.
only a VA.
There are a few other cases where you can, but it is not
Very
easy.
rare. Yeah, yeah.
But clearly in your world, that is something that's huge and would be helpful, right? Because if someone's locked in at 2 or 3%, why would you want to go 6 or 7%? So I love VA. I've done VA loans. I love VA loans because I do think that our country, you know, um, people that fought for our country should get protected and should get better deals. And so I love that we have that. I love that we have no PMI and low and no money down. Um, I love getting very creative when I have those that I'm working with because people, in the world of COVID, they're like, no, I need 20% down. So I've done things of I've lent clients money so that they could show money down. And then obviously at the day of close, you come with the full note from the VA loan. So again, that's where I like being creative. That's where I like working with people. And certainly in the cases where assumable mortgages can happen, yeah, you have to do that. But you have that much, much, much more than I would over here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is the only place in the United States that there's every military branch in the state. The only one is Hawaii. Every
Yeah.
single
So
military. Yeah, so there's a tons of VA loans over here. There's a lot of lenders and anybody else that's always screaming VA, VA, and they're catering to that, they're marketing to veterans.
well, at $800,000 early entry price for condos, if I'm a seller, who cares what loan it is, as long as you get to the closing table, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So that's with when our market is, it's still a seller's market in our market, right? So a lot of times you have to package what it looks like to try to get people to want to have, whether it's an FHA, low money down, or VA. Um, a lot of that don't. That's when you go again to the more productive, more professional agents and brokers, where if I can sell myself to the listing agent, why I'm going to get us to the closing table, and try to have conversations also with my lenders, to even talk to the listing agents, those all help me better position my clients so that we can get chosen for an accepted offer to get into contract. But, that's just the cost of doing business. And obviously, for me, FHA and VA, last year I've done some pretty decent in multifamilies over $1 million that were FHA and VA loans when I was repping the seller, because I'm not afraid of those loans. I just want to get to the closing table. And if you're working with people that are like smart, understanding their business, you can get those to the closing table. So what so are you doing more recruiting of people, or is really your recruiting really people who they see you
I,
out there and they flock to you?
I've never recruited not one person. Most people call me and want to come over. I had one girl, I can't call her name now because she's with a big company now, and she signed a contract with them, and she can't come over until her contract ends or she has to pay some money. And I've met with her several times. We've had lunch. She called, asked me for advice on things, and I give her advice. And one day she said, "Why don't you ever try to recruit me?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't recruit." I said, "If you want to come over, just say you want. I'm not going to ask you to come over because one, my company may not fit for you, may not be a fit, and two, I just don't recruit people. I prefer someone that wants to come over versus me trying to influence them to come over for X, Y, Z reason."
I'm very similar. I don't really do recruiting. My recruiting would be people. Actually, three of my previous clients who then wanted to get licenses are now working with us, and and then it's really, I don't need to be. That's the other thing. I don't need to be bigger, right? So
Yeah.
we did like 120 transactions last year. I probably did like 55 of them. Um, at some point, I don't have admins, I don't have a transaction coordinator, I do my own work. So at some point, I don't need to. A lot of people talk about scaling. I don't, I don't feel the need that I have to scale. I'd rather be smaller and nimble and have a great team of people and a great, because ultimately I only have one of me, right? So if I'm doing a lot of mentoring, the more that I have of me, I can't really do that. Clearly, though, I could get people that I mentor enough that they're really on their own. But in the end of the day, um, I like who we are. I like the numbers that we're at. And I love selling. So ultimately, I don't need to do it, but it's fun to have. It's fun that I'm able to sell, but also help people build their own business.
I take a little bit of that back. I'm just like you. I think the only people I've ever recruited were people that I knew that were talking about getting a license. But I've
Right.
never recruited other agents from other companies and stuff like that. Just reminded me I met someone in Starbucks. Matter of fact, she's one of my property managers now. I met her in Starbucks. She was studying for the test. And I'm like, "Oh, when you pass your test, yeah, you can come hang your license with me, so don't go talk to anybody."
That's it's not like you're stalking the school and you're waiting outside saying, handing out your business cards. It's the same thing for listings. Like, I have never door knocked in my life. I don't want a door knock. um you know my view is, you know do the best that I can for a great review. And then people will do internet searches of Google and Zillow and Realtor, and they'll see, oh, people are saying Danny's okay. And then they'll call me. And again, you don't have to be all things to all people. You don't need to have,
Okay.
you
Oh,
know,
that's so hard for new agents to understand. You don't have to be all things to all people. Because when you first start, you try to be all things to all people. But when you're in this business for a while, you understand that you don't need to be.
yeah. No, I mean, I will, clearly in the beginning, I mean, my lowest purchase was a $41,000 co-op, but then that person ended up selling. They referred me to people. They were such a huge, and actually the person was ill. So I ended up giving most of my commission went to like a GoFundMe anyway. But it's not about the money. It's about building relationships because that person was one of my staunchest people on Facebook, constantly saying, this is a good agent, it's a good agent, and that helps you build your business. And so ultimately, if doing the right, it's never wrong doing the right thing, right?
Absolutely. Never wrong. You never go broke making a dollar.
Nope. And what you also said is that's why, um, if you looked at our book a bit, we don't, our people can come look at our book of business because if we're doing the right thing, there's go open, go look at it. There's nothing there. Like the documents are filled out. We, you know, we use business practices that are, that we change our rates based off of the situation. And so that, that's the way that it's supposed to be done. So
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
what else do you what else what give me some other you know what? So I call it Adventures of a Real Estate Broker because I'm trying to write a book about it. I'm on chapter 8 right now because crazy things happen when you go into that house that's been foreclosed on. And I've had houses that have skeletons and skulls and guns and pornography. So give me a
Oh
little
man.
tidbit of a tidbit of like, oh my God, I went to go, sell this house and this is what I had to deal with.
I don't even want to call the location because I'm always messing with them when they see me. And I have a purple Tesla, so everybody knows the purple Tesla, or they call me the fire me guy. They call me the soldier guy. So people know me by that. I had a transaction in certain X part of the Oahu. When people that's listening, if you listen from Oahu, they know exactly what area I'm talking about. And had a brand new agent. So I said, hey, you go meet to the listing appointment, we can talk and everything else. Got it to the listing appointment, went in, fine, everything's good, no problem. They signed the listing agreement, not a big deal. The next day, I'm like, oh, I got a showing. They want to see the place. We go, I get there about 30 minutes early, me and the new agent. There's a guy laying on the floor. I don't know where this guy comes from. There's a needle stuck in his arm. He's passed out, and the buyer's like 10 minutes behind us. And I'm like, and me and my agent look, and there's a dog at the guy's leg doing whatever. And I'm like, am I getting pranked? I mean, what is going on in here? And I call the owner's name and say, hey, John,
Who's
John,
who's who's
the
the
door.
guy doing heroin in your house?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, he's like, ah, man, I told that guy to take that outside. And my new agent politely kicked the dog, kind of, nudged the dog to move off the guy's leg. She pulled the needles out the guy's arm. And we literally took a curtain and just closed the living area. 10 minutes later, buyers came in and when they opened the curtain, somehow the guy was gone.
They end up buying that house.
And they bought the house.
See, that's an Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. So that I love. I have some crazy stories like that. That is a good one. I did have one of my homeowners. It's a multifamily. They did have someone that passed doing heroin overdose, and they ended up going up in the off, in the unit, and he was passed, and they had to call the police. And so there's always, we're dealing with people, so things
Yeah,
happen all the time. But that was really quick acting, and that's a great story. So I mean, it's a sad story, obviously, but it's a story that we have to deal with all the time. And like you would have never known waking up that day. Oh, I'm going to be dealing with somebody who has a needle stuck in him, a dog over here. I got to pull the curtain up, and they buy the house. So
exactly. Good thing it was an investor, so I don't think the investor too much
right.
cared the area. No, but I just wasn't
Well,
expecting to walk in the house and see a guy sitting on the floor.
no, why would you, right? So that is a great story. But I want to say, Celester Thomas, you are what makes real estate agents and a good name for us. Um, so I thank you again for your service. People probably don't say that enough, but we're free because of people like you protecting our interests. I want to thank you for that. You're doing a great job in Hawaii, um, and being a team leader, a broker, an agent. So that is. I gotta get back out there to Oahu. It's a beautiful country out there. Um, keep up what you're doing. Uh, Again, no joke, no play. Soldier to soldier. If you're looking in Hawaii, Celester will get you covered. Um, for another episode of The Adventures of a Real Estate Broker, I'm Daniel Berger. Until next time. Thanks for joining me on The Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. I hope you enjoyed our time together as much as I did. If you laughed, learned something, or just had a good time, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the podcast. A big shout out to our sponsor, RE/MAX Prestige Properties, for making this all possible. Remember to leave a review if you enjoyed the show. It helps more people find us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep exploring the adventures in your neighborhood. I'm Daniel Berger, your New York realtor, and I'll see you in the next episode.